much for joining me today. I'm really happy to be back again with you today, featuring new Neat and Tangled products from their November release. Today I'm going to be featuring the new May Your Holidays Be stamp set, and it has this really fun ornament that you can build up with a few different images. And I'll show you how I did that. So I'm first starting off with the ornament, and I'm going to be stamping this with my Misty stamping tool because I want to stamp this multiple times to get a good impression, because I'm going to be using distress inks. Distress inks aren't technically meant to be used with stamping on clear stamps because they don't have a good clean impression for the most part. Once in a while you'll get a stamp that will stamp well with a distress ink, but for the most part you're going to end up with an impression that looks like this. It's going to look a little splotchy and not quite even. It looks cool for a distressed look, but I'm not looking for a distressed look on this particular image. I want it to be nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp it again a second time to give me a nice, good impression. Now the reason I'm choosing distress inks over, say, a dye ink is because I actually want to add some watercoloring onto this image. So I'm actually going to use some water and blend out the color from the sides and then also add in a little bit more color to give me some coloring on this particular image. So I'm now going to stamp the little starburst image inside of that ornament using some tumbled glass distress ink. And then I'm also going to stamp the little banner which is included in the stamp set. So I'll go ahead and ink this up with some Simon Says Stamp Clear ink, and I'm also prepping the surface of my paper with an EK Success powder tool. It's just going to help cut down on any static cling as I go ahead and press this image down and add the embossing powder. Now, the embossing powder that I'm using for this image is some Nouveau glitter embossing powder. This is a really gorgeous gold, and I forget the name of it at the moment, but I'll have it linked in the video description. But I absolutely love it. I have been using this like crazy because I love the beautiful shimmer of this embossing powder. I went ahead and heat set that with my heat gun, and here you can see I went ahead and colored in the ornament with those distress ink colors. I didn't show the coloring process because it was really simple. All I did was take some water and first apply a light coat of water over top of the red areas, and then I added a little bit darker coloring of red onto the image. And now I'm adding some shading onto the blue using some tumbled glass distress ink. The real focus of this particular card is I want to show you how I created this ornament to look more dimensional. So I'm taking some Simon Says Stamp Clear ink and I'm applying a nice coat of it over top of this ornament. I'm covering this completely with the embossing ink. I'm now going to take some Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail and Clear embossing powder, and I'm going to sprinkle this right over top of the ornament and sprinkle the excess back into the jar. What I'm left with is an ornament that is completely covered with embossing powder. As I heat set this, it's going to melt the embossing powder and give the ornament a really nice shiny appearance. Now it looks cool with just one layer, but I'm going to make this even more dimensional by adding multiple layers of embossing ink and embossing powder. It's going to give my ornament a more raised and dimensional appearance and help it look like a real shiny ornament. By the time I finally finished all of the inking and then adding the embossing powder and melting it, I put about 4 layers of embossing powder onto this particular image. And the results are really, really worth it. So I definitely recommend trying that to get a really cool dimensional effect. I also wanted to stamp a sentiment onto this ornament. However, I didn't want it to be underneath all the embossing that we already did. So I'm going to actually stamp this on top of all the embossing. And the Misty tool is really helpful for that because it's not going to shift as I press this down. If I used a clear block, I might have shifted the impression and not gotten something quite so crisp as I'm getting right here. I'm using some Ranger white embossing powder to add the beautiful sentiment on top of that ornament, and then I'll go ahead and heat set that with my heat gun. After we've built our ornament, it's time to go ahead and work on creating the supporting elements that it's going to be surrounding this ornament. And for this, I'm using the Bright Baubles stamp set from Neat and Tangled. This is an older stamp set, but it's one of my favorites. I really like the ornaments that are included in this set, but I felt that this little branch image would be perfect for using as an evergreen bough to hang my ornament from, so make it look like it was hanging from a tree. But I'm stamping those first in some light ink, and then I took those second evergreen boughs that I had stamped with some darker ink, and I stamped those onto some white cardstock and fussy cut them out, and I'm popping them up off of my card. I'm also taking some foam tape and adding it to the backside of my heat embossed sentiment that we used that glitter embossing powder for. I'll go ahead and pop that up off of my card. And I'm also taking some red sequins from the new sequin mix that we have from Neat and Tangled. This is a really beautiful holiday mix. And I'm going to go ahead and glue some of those down around my ornaments to be little berries. and I think that really adds a nice pop of red. The ornament I also popped up off of my card with foam tape. Now another thing I want to focus on is how I added on this ribbon to my card, and what I did to really finish off this ribbon nicely. I used the We Are Memory Keepers ribbon cutter. This just came into the Simon Says Stamp shop, and I'm really excited about it. I picked it up right away when I saw it because this is a tool that I have wanted for some time, and I'm really excited to have this now in my craft room. This is really simple to use. All it requires are a few batteries, and once it heats up, there's a little button on the top there that you'll turn on. You lay your ribbon across the base here, and you fold the ribbon cutter back on top of itself and press the button in the center. That cuts and also seals the ends of the ribbon and gives them a nice sealed edge so that way they won't fray. This is really, really handy. If you've ever seen nice ribbon from, say, packaging or other fancy stores, you notice that the ends of the ribbons are always that nice finished off edge. They're sealed and they don't fray. Well, this is how it's done. It's really easy. And after I trimmed the ribbon with my ribbon cutter, I went ahead and glued it down onto my card using some PPA matte adhesive. So this was a really simple card to make. I really enjoyed getting to do some different techniques on this card, and really the focal point of the card is the ornament, and I think that the simple design really lends itself to allowing that ornament to take center stage and really be the showcase of this card, because it's really definitely a beautiful centerpiece. And I think if it had been on a busier card, you wouldn't have gotten the same impact that you get with this card, how it's a lot more simpler and it allows that ornament to be the focal point. So I hope you've enjoyed this card and got some inspiration on using the new Neat Tangled release. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and head on over to my blog for more information on the new November release from Neat Tangled. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one you might like featuring Neat Tangled's newest release. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as my blog. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon.